The novel Dr. Faustus by Thomas Mann was first published in 1947. Dr. Faustus is the story of the rise and fall of Adrian Leverkühn, and it is told through the eyes of his friend Serenus Seidblom, who narrates the tale as a reminiscence undertaken in the 1940s. Leverkusen was born in 1885 near the fictional town of Kaiserslautern, Germany. He graduated from the high school campus Kaiserslautern. He spent his childhood in his father's estate. With two more children, the whole lifestyle of the family embodies tradition and integrity. Adrian showed an aptitude for science and he was admitted to the high school. He lives in his uncle's house, who owns a music store. He differs from others in his arrogance and secretive personality. At the age of 14, Adrian is interested in music and he begins taking lessons from the musician Wendell Kretschmer on the advice of his uncle. Even though Kretschmer stutters severely, he reads fascinating public lectures about the theory and history of music and teaches young people good taste in music. After graduating from high school, Adrian studies theology at the University of Halle, where Seidblom also lives. Schluffers, the teacher of psychology of religion, teaches the theory of real magic and demonic presence in human life there. Leverkusen continues to maintain contact with Kretschmer, the music teacher. He was invited to the conservatory in Leipzig. He was disappointed with theology and pursued philosophy, but he was drawn more towards music. Kretschmer, however, believes that the atmosphere of an institution like a conservatory could be fatal for Leverkusen's talent. On the day of arrival in Leipzig, Adrian was brought to a brothel instead of an inn. A girl with almond-shaped eyes approaches the young man and tries to pat his cheek, but he rushes away. Since then, her image does not leave him, but he waited for a year before deciding to find her. Adrian goes to Bratislava to find the girl. When she finds her, she warns that she is sick with syphilis, but he insists on intimacy. In Leipzig, Adrian resumes classes but soon becomes ill and is forced to seek medical attention. Before bringing the treatment to an end, the doctor suddenly dies. When he found another doctor, the doctor was arrested. Adrian decides not to treat. He starts to work passionately. The most significant of his works of that period is a song cycle on poems of romantic poet Brentano. In Leipzig, Leverkusen gets acquainted with a poet and translator Schielnap, who persuades him to make opera libretto to Shakespeare play Vain Efforts of Love. In 1910, Kretschmer gets the post of chief conductor at the Lübeck Theatre, and Leverkusen moves to Munich, where he rents a room. He resides near a senator named Roddy and her two adult daughters, Inese and Clarissa. The house parties are regularly arranged, and there are many new friends of artistic public, especially talented young violinist Rudolf Schwerdher. He consistently seeks friendship with Adrian and even asks him to write a violin concerto. Finding no calm, Leverkusen goes to Italy together with Schielnap. They spend the hot summer in the mountain village Palestrina, where they were met by a man and a lady named Seidblom. Adrian works hard on the opera, and Seidblom finds his music extremely strange and innovative. Here, the devil himself visits Leverkusen and tells about his involvement in the secret illness of Adriana and relentless attention to his fate. Satan promises Leverkusen the prominent role in the culture of the nation, the role of herald of a new era, which he called modern era of barbarism. The devil says that when Adrian deliberately infected himself with this ugly disease, He made a deal with the forces of evil, and in 24 years Satan will call him. But there is one condition: Leverkusen should give up love forever. In the autumn of 1912, they come back from Italy and Adrian resides near Munich. This place reminds him the farm of his parents. After finishing the opera, Leverkusen enjoys writing vocal pieces. Because of its innovations, they are not welcomed by the general public, but are performed in Philharmonic in Germany and bring the author fame. In 1914, he writes a symphony, Wonders of the Universe. In the same period, World War I begins, and it does not affect Leverkusen. He continues to live in the mansion and works with his music. Meanwhile, Inez Roddy marries a professor named Jens Torres, though with an unspoken love to Schwadwacher, which she confesses to the author herself. Soon she gets into contact with a violinist, suffering however with the conscious inevitability of separation. Her sister Clarissa Roddy also leaves her native town to devote herself to the scene, and Mrs. Roddy moves and settles near Leverkusen, who at the time starts to work on the Horatio Apocalypse. In the spring of 1922, Clarissa Roddy returns to her mother. Having gone through the creative collapse and catastrophic hopes for personal happiness, she ends her life by drinking poison. Leverkusen finally listens to Schwadwacher and dedicates a concert to him. It becomes a huge success. He repeats the same performance in Zurich, where Adrian and Rudolph get acquainted with theatre artist Mary Rotzi. A few months later, she arrives in Munich, and after a few days, the violinist asks Leverkusen to make their marriage possible. He reluctantly agrees and admits that he himself was in love. 2 days later, everyone comes to know about the engagement of Rudolph and Mary. The wedding should take place in Paris, where the violinist has a new contract. But on the way from his farewell concert in Munich, he meets death from the hands of Inez Roddy, who, in a fit of jealousy, shoots him in the tram. A year after the tragedy is Apocalypse finally performed. The concert is a grand success, but because of depression, the author is not present. The composer then writes the cantata, Cry of Dr. Faustus. In the summer 1928, Leverkusen comes to stay with his 5-year-old nephew. Adrian wholeheartedly gets attached to the charming and gentle kid. But 2 months later, the boy falls ill because of meningitis, and in a few days, he dies. Leverkusen spent the next 2 years in intense creative activity. He wrote his cantata. In May 1930, he invites friends and acquaintances to hear his new work. About 30 guests come, and then he confesses that everything created by him in the past 24 years is the business of Satan. His spontaneous attempts to violate the prohibition of love led to the death of all of them, and that is why he finds himself not only a sinner but a killer. Hearing this, most of the guests leave. Leverkusen begins to play the piano but then falls to the floor, and when he recovers the consciousness, the signs of madness are shown. After 3 months of treatment at the clinic, his mother takes him home and she looks after him like a little child. In 1935, Seidblom comes to congratulate a friend on the 50th anniversary. He does not recognize him. 5 years later, the brilliant composer dies.